Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS report for Tuesday, February the 8th. I hope everyone's having a good day. Yesterday, not really a great night. Again, two-game slates can be weird. Ottawa 2 was kind of the one that went off and broke the slate, essentially. And I went back and looked to see if I missed something, and their numbers were still pretty brutal. So just kind of one of those fluky two-game things that can happen. Hoping for a better night tonight. Before I get things started, I just dropped the link to the $5 DraftKings contest in the comment section. So let's fill that bad boy up. As of right now, I'm the only one in the contest because I forgot to tweet it out earlier. So we got a lot of work to do to fill that contest up. But it's a really good contest, really easy contest to cash in because there's only 20 people, 5 people get paid. So if you're looking to make some money on DK, that's really the spot to do it tonight. Again, we've got a 7-game slate on our hands. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Please smash that like button for what some have called the greatest NHL DFS show on YouTube. Other people have called it some guy that just talks about numbers a lot. So I'm not sure where you fall into, which pool you fall into there, but either way, thank you so much for tuning in. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and let's get into it, starting with the starting goalies tonight. We've got Anton Forsberg starting for the Senators as they host the Carolina Hurricanes, who will most likely go with Antti Ranta. Second half of a back-to-back. Freddie Anderson was pretty busy last night, was also at the All-Star game, so I'd be pretty stunned if it's not Ranta tonight for the Hurricanes. For the Capitals, they'll go back to Phoenix Copley, who replaced Elias Samsonov in their final game before the All-Star break, played very well, and he'll start tonight. And then you've got Elvis Merzlikins in net for the Columbus Blue Jackets. For the Montreal Canadiens, they'll go to Caden Primo. Most likely going to see John Gillies. For the New Jersey Devils, we saw Nico Daws start last night. So again, should probably be John Gillies for the Devils tonight. It's going to be Jeremy Swayman for the Boston Bruins as he returns to the NHL. We spent some time at the AHL level while Tuukka Rask was getting some playing time. Tuukka Rask suffered a bit of a setback, an injury, isn't going to practice this week, so Swayman back. Tristan Jarry gets the start for the Penguins, who will be without Evgeny Malkin, who is in COVID-19 protocol. You've got Connor Hellebuck in net for the Winnipeg Jets as they host the Minnesota Wild, who will go with Kaapo Kähkönen. The Jets also going to be affected by COVID-19 tonight. No Pierre-Luc Dubois, no Neil Pionk. The Edmonton Oilers they lose Mikko Koskinen to COVID-19 protocol, but they get Mike Smith back tonight. He'll be in net against the Vegas Golden Knights, who will most likely go with Robin Lehner, but again, unconfirmed report there. And then you've got Thatcher Demko likely to start for the Vancouver Canucks as they host the Arizona Coyotes, who will go with our boy Karl Vejmelka. So those are your 7 games, the 14 goalies, or some projected, some confirmed for tonight. Big game coming tonight for Pittsburgh. Jarry hasn't won a game since January 25th. Yeah, the whole Penguins team really been on a slide as of late. They seem to be better maybe without Malkin. Like, obviously they're not. They just seem to be, they were winning a lot more games before Malkin returned and then kind of went on a bit of a slide as he got back in the lineup. So maybe him coming out of the lineup will help tonight. I doubt that. Again, like, obviously they're a better team when Malkin's playing, but just the results just haven't really been there for them as of late. But the Bruins blue line has struggled a little bit as of late as well. So kind of a big game for both of those teams. In terms of the implied totals tonight, at the very top of the list, we've got the Washington Capitals at 3.9, followed closely by the Carolina Hurricanes at 3.7. Then you've got Vancouver, Minnesota, Vegas, New Jersey, kind of there in the top tier. And then, just a collection of teams in the middle. But yeah, really looking like the Capitals and the Hurricanes are 2 of the top teams to target tonight. You've got the Capitals going up against the Blue Jackets, who have just been giving up goals in bunches as of late. And then you've got the Hurricanes going up against the Senators team that's actually played pretty well as of late, but back to back against the Hurricanes with Forsberg in net instead of Matt Murray. It looks like a bit of a tough spot there. They need to move Rod back up. Yeah, Rodriguez will center the third line tonight. Basically, the top line has done all the scoring. Yeah, they haven't really, outside of Evan Rodriguez when he was on an absolute heater there for a while, a lot of their offense has been pretty concentrated to that top line. Matthews almost had a hat trick for me last night. Honestly, Matthews probably would have scored a hat trick for you last night if he would have been able to stay in that game. Luckily, it sounds like he's not going to miss too much time. But let's get back on track here. Go over to the big board where Minnesota Wild's top line grades out as the best line stack tonight at 5v5. Then you got Vancouver 1, Boston 1. The Senators top line continues to grade out very, very well. They are pretty disappointing last night, though. We'll see how they can perform tonight. Then you got Carolina 2, Vegas 2, Winnipeg 1, Washington 1, And Carolina 1, Edmonton 1, rounding out the top 10. Obviously, we'll break this thing down game by game. So let's start at the very top. We've got the Capitals and the Blue Jackets. So Alexander Ovechkin returns after a one-game absence due to COVID-19 protocol. I think it's more or less, I just don't want to go to the All-Star game. I'm going to get suspended for a game anyway, so I might as well just miss this one. Anyways, he's back tonight, but because he tested positive for COVID-19, he's ineligible to travel for their next game to Canada. So he is going to end up missing 2 games because of the COVID-19 protocol before the All-Star break. He's back tonight on the top line with Kuznetsov and Connor Sheary. Joe Snively, who replaced Ovechkin on the top line in their last game, will move back to the second line with Nick Backstrom and Tom Wilson. The third line is the typical checking line for them: Carl Hagelin, Nick Dowd, Garnett, Hathaway. The Blue Jackets, Laine, Jenner, Nyquist on the top line. You got Voracek, Sillinger, Bjorkstrand on the second line. In terms of the matchups tonight, looks really, really solid across the board for the Capitals. Pace-wise, not really a super up-tempo, high-event game. On the lower end of things tonight, for the Blue Jackets, really pretty poor matchups across the board for them. So I think that the Blue Jackets will probably garner a decent amount of ownership tonight because I don't think anybody really trusts Phoenix Copley, and it's really difficult to blame them there. But the Capitals have just been really, really solid defensively all season long. The Blue Jackets really haven't been all that strong offensively either. Obviously, they got enough talent to score. I mean, Boone Jenner's having a really good season. Patrick Laine is starting to come on as of late. Gustav Nyquist has quietly had a really nice season. So, I think that there is opportunity here for the Blue Jackets with Copley between the pipes. Copley, again, looked really good before the All-Star break, but his overall body of work at the NHL level has not been very good to date. So, I certainly think there is opportunity here for the Blue Jackets, but given what their own percentage is likely to be, again, I don't think they're going to be super high owned, but I think they're going to garner enough ownership to probably turn me off because the matchup just simply isn't very good. Basically just splitting hairs here, trying to determine which line has the best matchup because they're all basically the same because the Capitals really don't hard match very much. It's kind of just an even split amongst the lines. So kind of a difficult game to break down. In terms of the Blue Jackets, if you are looking to target, the second line looks like the one that's really done, that's been a little bit more efficient in terms of producing scoring chances, 26 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 10 high danger. So, I mean, that would maybe be the line to consider. But they're probably going to see a little bit more of the middle six, which is slightly better defensively. So all in all, I don't love the Blue Jackets tonight. Obviously, I think this top line, you've got Laine, Jenner, and Nyquist probably has the highest ceiling. So even though the offensive numbers are a little bit better from Columbus 2, they grade out a little bit better. I think Columbus 1 is probably just the one that I'm going to go to by default because they have, they see the power play usage. They see more ice time. So when you're talking about them all kind of having similar matchups, I'm just going to go to the one that's got the higher upside. But overall, I actually like Phoenix Copley a decent amount tonight, especially considering he's like, what is he, 6,500 on DK. He grades out as the 4th best goalie option on the entire slate in terms of projection. So I actually like Copley quite a bit. If he can, sustain anything that from what we saw before the All-Star break, I think that he could be a decent play tonight. So I don't love the Blue Jackets. I am going to be on the Capitals tonight. Outside of this top line, really not a whole lot to consider. The middle six is not very good offensively. The fourth line just simply doesn't see enough ice time. So the Ovechkin line is really the one that's going to garner a lot of my attention. And the numbers actually are a lot better when Connor Sheary's on that line. They look pretty solid, 2.9 expected goals, 4 per 60, 27 high scoring chances, 11 high danger, 55% expected goals for share. So they've been really, really solid. Again, their matchup's quite good. 85.5 in terms of the matchup score tonight. Again, that's out of 100. So pretty good matchup for them tonight. The second line, pretty good matchup as well, but not quite as good offensively. So if I'm going to play the Capitals tonight, it's going to be that top line that I target. Oh my goodness, I didn't do the power play report. My bad. So for the previous subscribers, that will be filled out later today. Normally, that's the first thing I do, and I never even checked that I did it. So I do apologize. No power play report today, unfortunately. That's on me. For the premium subscribers, I will get that done as soon as the live show is completed. That is just a huge fail on my behalf. Let's move on now, I guess. We're going to be talking 5v5 only tonight. You've got the Ottawa Senators against the Carolina Hurricanes. I go by this color scheme, and I left it in green, so I just assumed it was done. It is not complete. My bad. This looks like a very high event game, highest event game on the entire slate tonight, followed closely by Edmonton and the Winnipeg game. For the Hurricanes, they obviously ran into a bit of a buzzsaw against the Leafs last night. The Leafs are a team that can shut you down. Plus, we talked about how the Hurricanes, the way that their lineup is kind of constructed, leaves a lot to be desired from a fantasy perspective. But the second line was one that I was pretty interested in last night. They looked solid. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in the Aho line. He didn't do a whole lot. So, I'm fine with that play there. And the same thing's probably going to be going on tonight. I like Aho's line a little bit more tonight. Netchas looked solid last night. I'd probably leave Jordan Martinook off. If Teuvo Teravainen returns to the lineup out of nowhere, that would be a huge addition. But overall, the second line has the best matchup on the entire slate. But realistically, again, I use the term splitting hairs a lot, but that's basically what we're doing. They're going to see almost the exact same amount of ice time against the same top three lines against the Senators. So matchup wise, it's going to be almost identical. So, Carolina 2 technically grades out with the top matchup on the entire slate, but, right behind them, you've got Carolina 1. Based on the overall numbers, Carolina 2, much better offensively, 35 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 3.5 expected goals, 4 per 60. They've been really, really good. The top line obviously takes quite a hit when you put Jordan Martinook up there. Takes quite a hit when you take Teuvo Teravainen off. So if Teravainen plays and bump Carolina 1 up, if not, I still am going to roll with Carolina 2. I really like Svechnikov tonight, really like Trocheck. Seth Jarvis looked good last night. But again, I'm not going to completely write Carolina 1 out. Aho still played very well last night. Netchas, I think, hit the 5-shot bonus. So I like both of them. And again, their matchup is basically just an even split against these three lines, which are all really bad defensively for the Senators. Meanwhile, you got the Senators, who a lot of people, Brady Tkachuk was like 50% owned last night. He obviously flopped. Stitzel didn't do much. Offensively, the numbers are still really, really good. 34 scoring chances, 4 per 60 is outstanding. Really, where they're going to have to make hay is when they're out there against the Trocheck line, maybe a little bit of the Jordan Staal line. But overall, the Hurricanes are really, really good defensively. Antti Ranta's, played quite well this year, especially recently. So I don't really have a lot of interest in going back to the Senators, although I will say it is a decent spot in terms of getting them at super low ownership because A, they burned everybody last night, and B, the matchup's really tough. So they're going to be super low owned. So I think that, they're a pretty interesting contrarian option. Obviously, the Hurricanes are a little bit more exploitable tonight with Ronson and net, with them also being on a back-to-back. So I think that the Ottawa top line is a pretty interesting pivot option tonight. The price is pretty reasonable, $13,700 if you want to include Tyler Ennis, but Stützle at $4,800 looks like a great price. Tkachuk at $6,000, pretty solid as well. So again, they grade out very well at 5v5. So I have a little bit of interest in Ottawa 1, but most of my interest will probably be in Carolina 2 tonight. Third game of the night, you've got the Devils and the Canadiens. This grades out, I believe, is the lowest event. Yeah, by far the lowest event matchup on the entire slate. So I just don't really have a whole lot of interest in this game. Both teams are really struggling to score goals. It just looks like just an absolutely dreadful game. So I'm probably going to stay away altogether. If you look here, both teams, matchup-wise, brutal across the board for the Canadiens. Not very good for New Jersey either. So the one matchup that I would like to probably talk about is this top line for the Devils. They obviously scored their only goal last night. Bratt still looked as good as Bratt always does. They're really, really good. 16 high danger, 31 scoring chances. They're great. The problem is they're going to go up against this Nick Suzuki line almost exclusively, and that Suzuki line's played very, very well defensively. So given the fact that both teams, the top 6 here for the Canadiens grades out pretty well defensively, they should be able to hold the Devils scoring lines at bay. The lines that might have a little bit of, a couple looks tonight would be maybe the Devils bottom 6 going up against the Canadiens bottom 6. But overall, the matchup score is still pretty average or below average for the Devils bottom 6. So it's a low event game. Both teams having trouble to score. I just don't really think it's worth my money tonight. If one of them goes off, then that's fine. It is what it is. But I think chances of this, being a pretty low scoring 2-1 hockey game are pretty high. Even though, both teams' goaltending situations aren't the greatest either. But looks low event. both teams' top six are pretty good defensively, so their scoring line should be held in check for the most part. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about this game. Moving on to one of the more exciting games on the slate, you got the Bruins and the Penguins. Overall, not terrible matchups for the top six of the Bruins, brutal matchups for the top six of the Penguins. Again, by the metrics, the Bruins are an absolute juggernaut defensively. I mean, these numbers are just gaudy. They're so impressive. 14 scoring chances against per 60 for the top line, 16 scoring chances against for the third line. Even the second line's been really solid defensively. So it's going to be difficult for the Penguins to really get anything going against the Bruins tonight. Again, based on the metrics, they look outstanding. They have been a little bit more leaky as of late, which is a concern. But overall, I'm going to look at their overall body of work on the season and just kind of most likely stay away from this Penguins team that just hasn't played all that well. As of late. Again, the top line's been just absolutely outstanding. 35 scoring chances against, or 4 per 60, 15 high danger, but they're going to see 36% of their ice time against the Bergeron line, 34% of their ice time against the Bruins' fourth line. Both are just absolutely outstanding defensively, specifically this Bergeron line. So I wouldn't be surprised if they even match Bergeron up a little bit harder than that against Crosby tonight, especially with Malkin not in the lineup. I would be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised, if Bergeron sees Crosby almost exclusively all night long. And in that case, it's really difficult to project the Penguins to have a lot of success tonight. And then, you factor in the fact that they're, one of the most expensive lines on the slate, 21,900 to full stack. Really just no interest for me there. On the flip side, the Penguins, again, defensively, they've been, a little bit worse as of late, but the only line really doing anything impressive for the Bruins right now is that top line, that Howe line, that Hall Pasternak line. They've had success, right? They've put the puck in the back of the net, but they're really doing it just without generating a whole lot of scoring chances. 26 scoring chances for, 9 high danger. They've been incredibly efficient, but they're just not really generating enough to make me think that it's, sustainable. In terms of the matchup, they're going to see the middle six of the Pittsburgh Penguins, which grades out as a pretty good matchup. The third line for the Penguins, that Rodriguez line, has struggled really bad defensively, 37 scoring chances against the second line, slightly below average defensively. So the matchup's pretty solid for Boston too. I probably would look there more than Boston 1, just because I think that they're going to be busy with that Crosby line most of the night. So the matchup's pretty solid for Boston too. Again, they're not generating a ton, so it's a little bit risky. But when you've got the skill level of a David Pastrnak and of a Taylor Hall, you don't really need to generate a ton to still have success and score put the puck in the back of the net. Taylor Hall just 4,000, ridiculously cheap. Howell has had some success on this line, 2,900. Pasternak's very expensive at 8,500, but 15,400 to full stack, that is pretty reasonable in a half decent matchup. But overall, this looks like it's probably going to be a lower scoring, tight checking game. So not really going to target it a ton. I got a lot more interest in these later games. Speaking of which, Minnesota and the Jets. So again, no Pierre-Luc Dubois for Winnipeg. So Andrew Kopp will move up to the second line with Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti. The top line will be Stastny, Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler. No changes for the Wild other than Marcus Foligno coming back into the lineup. He'll be right back on a line with Joel Eriksson Ek and Jordan Greenway. The top line remains Kaprizov, Hartman, and Zuccarello. You got Fiala, Frederick Gaudreau, and Matt Boldy on that second line, which continues to play very, very well. In terms of the matchups, the best matchup for this game outside of the fourth line is Minnesota 1. They're going to go up almost exclusively against that Mark Scheifele line, which has struggled defensively throughout the season. Minnesota 2, which is, again, we'll get to their numbers in a second, but their matchup's not quite as good, but their offensive numbers are nearly identical to Minnesota 1. So in terms of matchup, not quite as good. In terms of skill level, it's almost identical right now. So let's get to those matchups right now. Again, Minnesota 1 versus Winnipeg 1 for the most part, and then Minnesota 2 against the middle six of the Jets almost exclusively. So the top line for the Jets, really, really poor defensively. 32 scoring chances against, 14 high danger. They've been bad defensively all season long. Nothing's really going to change there. So this Minnesota 1 top line that averages 31 scoring chances for, 12 high danger, should have plenty of success against Winnipeg 1 tonight. It shouldn't be an issue. One of my favorite lines. Obviously, they grade out as the top line to target on the entire slate. So not that big of a stretch for me to say that they're one of my favorite lines tonight. Then you got Minnesota 2. So Minnesota 2, look at this. I mean, like literally identical numbers to Minnesota 1. 3.1 expected close 4. 33, slightly more scoring chances, slightly less high danger. But all in all, almost the exact same numbers as Minnesota 1. They've been so good since adding Matt Boldy to the lineup. So when they're out there against this Kyle Connor line with Andrew Kopp and Cole Perfetti, they should have a lot of success. 35 scoring chances against, 14 high danger, just as bad, if not worse, defensively than Winnipeg won. So matchup-wise there, they should be fine. The problem is when they go up against the Adam Lowry line that's giving up 17 scoring chances against, they're going to be in a lot more trouble. So it's going to be interesting to see how Winnipeg matches up here because to me, you don't really want your second line going out there against Minnesota 3. You don't want your Kyle Connor, Cole Perfetti line going up against the monsters of Eriksson Ek, Foligno, and Greenway. So that leads me to believe that we're more likely to see a lot of Winnipeg 2 versus Minnesota 2, which I think is a matchup that Minnesota 2 can absolutely dominate. I think that they'll probably elect to match up Lowry's line, which is a bigger, heavier line against the bigger, heavier line of Minnesota 3. So while the numbers suggest that, it'll be kind of an even split, I think when you just factor in logic, you don't really want Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti getting crushed by Jordan Greenway and Marcus Foligno. So I tend to believe that Minnesota 2 is in a really good spot tonight. If they end up seeing, let's say, 60% of their ice time against this new Winnipeg 2, they can absolutely dominate that matchup. Winnipeg 2, very, very good line with Pierre-Luc Dubois in the lineup. Very, very poor without Pierre-Luc Dubois. So I love Minnesota 1, but Minnesota 2 as a value play, it looks absolutely terrific. And then you kind of just consider the fact that Connor Hellebuck really has not been all that good this season either, at least as of late. So Minnesota 1 and 2 should have plenty of success tonight. I'm not going to go to Minnesota 3 specifically because of what I just mentioned. They're probably going to go head-to-head with this Lowry line, which will be a real bruising matchup, low event hockey. Both teams very sturdy defensively, so not a whole lot there. I really don't have any interest in the Jets tonight. Without Pierre-Luc Dubois, not really a whole lot going here for the second line. The top line really hasn't had a whole lot of success all season, and they're going to have their hands full with the Kaprizov line. So I like Capo Kakinen quite a bit. I'm really not interested in playing the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Moving on, we've got the Oilers and the Golden Knights, which again, this is projected to be the second highest pace game of the slate, right there neck and neck with the Winnipeg game. Matchup wise, pretty good matchups across the board. The McDavid line's got a pretty decent matchup. Going to see an even split basically of the top 9. Slightly worse matchup for the Leon Draisaitl line, which is going to see a lot more of Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, and Chandler Stevenson. And then you've got Edmonton 3, which is, again, pretty decent matchup, slightly above average. And then across the board, top 9 for the Golden Knights, really nice matchups for them. It's going to be interesting to see how Mike Smith looks in his return to the crease. They just seemingly can't seem to get this guy like any type of work before he just immediately is thrust back into the crease. We obviously saw it not work earlier in the season. I would be, pretty surprised if he just comes in and stands on his head tonight. Really hasn't been all that sharp this season. I think he's only played 6 games and it's been, 3 or 4 months now. So I think that there's a lot to like here about the Golden Knights. The top 6 is fully intact again. Jack Eichel not quite ready to play, but you still got Stevenson, Stone, Pacioretty on the top line, Marchessault, Smith, Carlson on the second line. All 6 of those guys, very, very good. The offensive numbers are pretty similar across the board here for both of those lines. They've been strong all season long. They're going to see, again, pretty even mix of this top 9 for the Oilers, which is all below average defensively, all giving up right around 30 or above 30 scoring chances for, right around or above 12 high danger chances. So there should be plenty of opportunities for the Golden Knights tonight against a rusty Mike Smith. So I really like the Golden Knights side of things tonight. As for the Oilers, the way this lineup is currently constructed, it's again, I kind of understand what they're doing. They bring in Evander Kane on the top line with McDavid. It hasn't been great. Results-wise, it's been okay. Kane's been relatively productive, but at 5v5, the numbers are still pretty pedestrian. Then you take Nugent Hopkins off of the second line and have him center the third line. Okay, it lengthens your lineup out, but the Draisaitl line just is getting absolutely crushed without Nugent Hopkins. So, I mean, these offensive numbers are despicable. 21 scoring chances, 4 to 6 high danger for Leon Draisaitl. I mean, it needs to be better than that. So, the way this lineup's currently constructed, it's pretty ugly for the Oilers. Obviously, kind of the great equalizer for them is always their power play. Again, shame on me, no power play report at this moment. But I mean, yeah, like at any time that it doesn't really matter how good the opposition's penalty kill is. We kind of saw that last night with the Toronto Maple Leafs going up against the league's best penalty kill in the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes were able to get the best of them a couple times, but then it's really, really difficult to shut down Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, William Nylander on the power play the whole night. And the same goes for the for the Oilers night. I mean, you can't slow that power play down forever. So at 5v5, the numbers are pretty brutal. I think it's probably a little bit too steep of a price to pay for Edmonton tonight, banking on them having just power play success, because I really think that this is going to be a game dominated by the Golden Knights at 5v5. So, always a scary proposition to fade McDavid and Draisaitl and all, that entire power play unit. But tonight is probably a night where I'm going to do so. I really like what a lot of other lines have to offer. And then I really like the Vegas Golden Knights side of things. In terms of Vegas, you've got the second line, the Marchessault, Carlson, Smith line, again, grades out a little bit better. They're 15,100 to full stack. The top line, Pacioretty, Stevenson, and Stone, 17,700 to full stack. Stone's still way too cheap at 5,200. Stevenson, whenever he plays with these two guys, has been much better. Pacioretty didn't look great, right before the All-Star break, didn't look right. Stone hasn't, looked himself really either. I think now getting their legs under him here after the All-Star break, I think they should both look a little bit better. I expect Vegas 1 to have a pretty big night tonight. So I like Vegas 1. I like Vegas 2. Not really all that interested in Edmonton tonight. Then you've got this seventh and final game of the slate. You've got Vancouver, you've got Arizona. So Elias Patterson missed yesterday's practice with an illness, but he was back on the ice this morning. Looks like he's going to play. Problem for him is he's going to be centering that third line now that Bo Horvat is back. He'll have Podkolzin and Niels Höglander on his wing. On paper, it's a pretty exciting line, but overall, it just doesn't look all that appealing. Vancouver 1, Vancouver 2 both look pretty solid tonight. I'd be fine leaving Jason Dickinson off of Vancouver 2 stack, but Horvat at 3,900 looks like a great play. Then you've got Connor Garland at 4,000, also looks like a strong play. 7,900 to full stack them. I can get behind that. Then Vancouver 1. Let's get to this matchup here for them. Again, matchup wise, 92.7 in the matchup score, really, really good. They're going to see a lot of the top line, a lot of the third line for the Coyotes. Oh, that's embarrassing. The top line for the Coyotes, pretty solid, just slightly below average defensively, 31 scoring chances. They're sturdy. The third line, however, absolutely horrendous defensively. That's their Riley Nash, Antoine Roussel line. They've been just getting absolutely caved night in and night out. A 37% expected goals for share, a 33% Corsi for. They've been just getting absolutely crushed. So if that matchup holds and Miller, Besser, Pearson see, 50% almost, 35% of their ice time against that line, they should absolutely destroy them. So yeah, I like Vancouver 1 quite a bit for that reason. The second line, not going to see nearly as much of that third line, so I'm definitely downgrading Vancouver 2 a little bit to Vancouver 1. If you want to take a dart throw with that third line, because again, they're going to see roughly 30% of their ice time against that terrible Arizona 3 line, then maybe you can take a dart throw. But overall, I think you're going to get a lot more ice time out of this Bo Horvat line, even if it's in a tougher matchup. I'm fine with Bo Horvat and Connor Garland. You got Horvat back on the top power play unit tonight as well. So I'd rather take the chance with Vancouver 2 over Vancouver 3. But if maybe you're playing a late slate, or even like a showdown slate or whatever, then maybe you can kind of consider Vancouver 3 at that point. But overall, in the whole slate, grand scheme of things, I think that they're a pretty low percentage play tonight. So Vancouver 1 really looks outstanding. And then, if you look here, matchup-wise, Arizona looks pretty poor tonight. Again, it's been quite some time since I've been able to promote the Coyotes, so I'm probably not going to do it again tonight. Overall, the numbers, the top line's been pretty solid. 30 scoring chance, 4 per 60, 13 high danger. But the matchup, this isn't very good, right? I mean, the Canucks have been so good defensively under Bruce Boudreau that this doesn't really look like an opportunity to play Arizona yet again. Again, Johan Larsson looks like he's going to miss some time. That just devastates that second line. Um, the Coyotes' top line would be the only one really worth considering. But again, they're going to see almost exclusively the Miller and Horvat lines, which are both really good defensively. So there's just not a whole lot there for Arizona tonight. This Canucks team has just been too good defensively under Boudreau. Okay, skipping the power play report. Again, if you are a premium subscriber, I do apologize. I'm going to get that updated here before 6 p.m. Give you kind of an hour to study the power play report really quickly. Hopefully finalize some of your decisions. That is my bad. In terms of the defensemen tonight, value-wise, Brady Shea, I still love Brady Shea at 4,100. I can get behind that. Duncan Keith continues to play very well. 3,600. Jonas Brodin at 4,300 is a terrific option. Sees some power play time with Matt Dumba out. Plays almost 25 minutes a night. It's hard to, ask for a whole lot more than that. And this is a night where I really like the Wild, so I'll get behind Brodin. Again, Spurgeon doesn't grade out very well in terms of the overall counting stats, but at just 4,900, top power play unit, I love Jared Spurgeon tonight to pair with either Minnesota 1 or Minnesota 2. If you can't fit them, you need to go to Brodin. Totally fine with that. Brian Dumoulin, again, if you're playing Pittsburgh, I always like playing Brian Dumoulin. If you're one-offing a defenseman, he looks like a decent option as well. If you're trying to punch somebody at the bottom, blocks a ton of shots, does get some shots on net as well. Should see plenty of opportunities to block shots tonight against the Bruins as well. Mike Matheson slowly climbing up the list again. If you're looking for a cheap one-off defenseman from the Penguins, he looks fine. I can get behind that. Do I like John Carlson tonight? Yeah. I mean, I like the Capitals in general. So yeah, John Carlson, looks solid. Overall, his overall body of work hasn't been all that exceptional this season, but that kind of shows in his price tag at 6,300, right? Way cheaper than we're normally used to seeing John Carlson. So in a great matchup, yeah, he's definitely a really strong play. Again, obviously, a lot of these top guys I really like. We just try to help find you some value plays to make things a little bit easier. Obviously, the top dogs are always going to be in play. Overall, there's not really a whole lot. Tyson Barry still at 3,800 is way too cheap. Again, I told you I'm not really on Edmonton tonight, but he's still on the top power play unit. He's 3,800. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for. Maybe again, if you're fading the Oilers and you're needing to one-off a cheap defenseman, maybe you one-off Barry, and at least you have a little bit of exposure to that top power play unit. And if Leon and McDavid each score a goal, maybe Barry pitches in an assist and at least gets you some exposure and you're not completely left hung out to dry. Yeah, not a whole lot here in terms of defensemen tonight. A lot of the middle price guys. You got your Shea, you got Severson, Brodin, Spurgeon, Duncan Keith. Slavin's finally starting to get up there. 5,100 still pretty cheap. Decent shot volume, obviously, from Jacob Chikrin at 5,600. Would like to see him a little bit cheaper. Goss spare 4,800 top power play unit. What's our super contrarian? Yeah, Sherrod's always fine. Sherrod just plays an absolute boatload of minutes. I play Sherrod occasionally. He's fine, 4,100. 24 minutes a night at 4,100. Again, I just don't like that game all that much. Super contrarian line. I mean, I don't know if there's anything over the moon super contrarian that I'm particularly in love with. I think again, Ottawa 1 is one that sticks out to me as being probably pretty low owned. I wouldn't say super contrarian by any stretch, but they're going to be pretty low owned after burning a lot of people. Tough matchup tonight. So Ottawa 1 would be that one that's kind of a little bit off the board to me. I think that Vegas 2 is another one of those lines that just never seems to garner any ownership. Nobody ever seems to play them except for me. And they always seem to be pretty successful. Marshall 6,200 is very affordable. And the other two, 4,400 for Smith and 4,500 for Carlson. Very cheap. Carlson doesn't provide a whole lot in terms of a floor, but when they score, they score. So yeah, again, not super contrarian, but I like both those lines quite a bit. I think that they'll both probably come in with relatively low ownership. In terms of the goalies tonight, Capo Kakinen, I mentioned him off the top. Really like him against the Jets tonight. Should see plenty of shot volume. The Jets have one of the lower implied totals on the slate, so Kakinen projects to be the highest or the best goalie on the slate. Demko, Ranta, Copley, and Demko, Ranta, Copley all have the three highest expected win percentages on tonight's slate. Shot volume is a concern for all three of them, but given their win percentage tonight or their win equity, they all look to be pretty strong plays. Demko, obviously one of the best goalies in the world, has arguably, the best matchup that you can have against the Coyotes. 8,200, I think, is a very reasonable price. But again, the shot volume is a real concern whenever you're facing the Coyotes. Ronta, I'm not too concerned about his shot volume. The Senators have been, shown the ability to be able to get the puck on net with decent frequency. Last night, maybe not so much, but I'm not as concerned about Ronta's shot volume as I am Demko's. Copley, again, 6,500. He's worth a shot. The Blue Jackets are an okay offense, but I do think that this is a game that the Capitals can easily win. Obviously, 70% expected win percentage at $6,500. It's really difficult to go wrong there. He's going to see plenty of ownership just because obviously it opens up so much, but he grades out as the best value option by far. So I want to say Pittsburgh's third line is going to have a breakout game. Might throw Letang into since Erod on the power play as well. I mean, yeah. If we go back to the lines here for Winnipeg, that Danton Heinen, Evan Rodriguez connection has had plenty of success this season. 37 scoring chances forced, 15 high danger. They're obviously a line that has produced very strong metrics. I just don't like the matchup. They're going to see a ton of Charlie Coyle's line, which is only giving up 16 high danger. So it's tough, right? Because the numbers say like this is a really good line, and maybe if Malkin misses one more game, which is expected to, their next game they might be more in play for me. Tonight the matchup just looks a little bit too difficult, but as a super contrarian low owned line, that's fine. And then obviously Rodriguez moving back up to the top power play unit certainly helps. The rest of the goalies here. Swayman, probably not all that interested in Swayman. Primo, Yari, no. Smith, no. Lehner, I do have some interest in, obviously, just because I'm probably fading the Oilers quite a bit tonight. 7,700. Should see plenty of shot volume. So Lehner, I do have a decent amount of interest in. But again, most of my interest is at the top here. Basically it's going to be a ton of Kakinen for me. Demko, maybe a little bit where I can fit him, maybe a little Ronta. And I really like Phoenix Copley. So I don't think that there's really a whole lot of need to play kind of these middle priced guys for me tonight, just because I feel fine with Copley. And in lineups where I don't need to save a ton of salary, then the top guys are clear plays, specifically Kakinen for me. So Danton against his former team, yeah, you could write that narrative. But all right, let's make our hat trick picks again. If you haven't been here before, haven't listened to this show, we give you the opportunity to win a free month of DFO Premium, a $20 value. All you got to do is comment who you think is going to score a hat trick tonight. You get one pick, I get two picks, since I don't need the free month. And comment. Do not pick the same person that's already been picked, because whoever picked the guy first gets the free month. We've given away 2 months so far. Here are my hat trick picks for the night. I'm going to go cheap Hattie pick. I don't know if anybody's picked him yet. I've had a hard time keeping up with the chat today. But my cheap hat trick pick is going to be Brock Besser. Great first name on the kid. We're going to go Brock Besser as our cheap hat trick pick. And then our expensive hat trick pick, I'm going to go Andrei Svechnikov. If somebody already said him, then I'm on the same boat as you. Svechnikov as my expensive hat trick, and Brock Besser as my cheap guy. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please, please, please smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well. We do this every single day, Monday through Friday, 5:15 p.m. Eastern. I promise I'll have the power play report tomorrow as well. Thank you guys so much. See you back here on Wednesday.